source from which all things come. Security blanket for the stars. Understand what black is. It's not a color, it's the basis of all colors. It is not a complexion, it is a reflection of all complexions called human. And out of this blackness, passion flows like a river. Feelings tell the truth. Song and dance and making you laugh are family members. Understand what black is, the breath you breathe.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. And Harry, thank you for that introduction. And as you know, that was a brief excerpt from the Last Poets, and they're celebrating their 50th anniversary of emergence and creativity. The show today, I want to thank Wendy McCloyd. She's really been the director of this show and the showrunner, has really helped me with reaching out to folks that I haven't met before. But David Dang is on the line. We have some other people that will probably join us. And we're talking about, there was a few titles that Wendy and I were discussing, David. One was Socially Distanced While Spirituality Rich, Ancestral Healing Under a Pandemic. Another was Ancestral Knowledge in COVID Times. And another one was Novel Virus, Ancient Wisdoms, and also just spreading wisdoms and ancient respect for modern healing. But regardless of the words, David, it's just, we know we're in somewhat of a crisis, and maybe we've been in a crisis for as long as we've been on this, I can identify ourselves on the planet. But David, I want to jump right in with you, and if other people join us, fine. We are expecting, I don't want to put them on blast by mentioning their names, David, but we'll get to them later. But David, you have an upcoming event. I believe it's tomorrow, isn't it? The Asian African American is kind of a collaboration event that's taking place. Can you hear us, David?
Yeah, sorry, I actually had myself on mute. Yeah, I'm just attending the event, just supporting some of the comrades that I met over the years that are part of the panel, like Diane Fugino. I'm probably pronouncing her name incorrectly, and then Andizwe Chimaringa. So I'm just going to be attending in support of what they have to share. Yeah.
Okay. And actually, this show is about attending and support. One of the themes, David, that I was thinking about was for folks to kind of just jump off of what their purpose, passion, and really product is, and whether the product is a spiritual product, a nonprofit product, a profit product, a personal product, or a family product. And then to kind of talk about how the things that you've learned in life and the events that you're involved with are really important for how do we kind of survive and thrive during this situation. And some people might feel that this situation is not unique, and just life in general has always had its challenges. So I'm not going to pick on you totally, but if you want to kind of start with a little bit about your purpose and passion and kind of mission in life, that might be great to hear.
Yeah, that's cool. Origin story time.
Well, and then some people will say past lifetime or past life regressions and live more than once, and also do an astral projection into the future. So I don't want to limit you in terms of, Sankofa, but however you kind of define the term is fine.
How would you define what again?
However you might want to define my question is fine, because it's origin, but it's also kind of evolving origins and also legacy. So I'm looking for people to kind of project, to kind of center us in terms of your passion and purpose, but also to project where your legacy might be leading in terms of people benefiting from your existence on the planet.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It was, I feel like, something I share with friends sometimes, especially just catching up with people. I look back on my life, I find myself living with like a general theme of existentialism. Like, I feel like that's something I found myself either. I feel like I was unintentionally exploring that since I was young, and then I think somewhere in my young adulthood I found myself intentionally exploring. Now that by my young adulthood I had a better understanding what existentialism was a bit more. because just reflecting back, it's kind of a trip where I felt like I originally got into activism and organizing more so around like police brutality, you know. But then it's kind of a trip now that I find myself in the past several years dedicating a good portion of my time around like mental and emotional health.
Indeed.
Yeah, particularly as I found it a necessity in my own growth, especially as I continue on in my activism and organizing.
Indeed, and as you know, this May is a Mental Health Awareness Month. But I mean, every month there's some kind of theme. But mental health is obviously a 24/7, 365 endeavor. You earned your Bachelor's of Science in Visual Effects and Motion Design from the Art Institute of International in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And your family's you have kind of origin stories from Vietnam and Chinese. But I was intrigued also with your there's a documentary that you're involved with, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
share a little bit about that, because when you mentioned existentialism, people may know what that means. Well, actually, let me just, before you go to the documentary, explain what existentialism means to you. Are you particularly referring to Camus? Are you just referring to Kierkegaard? I mean, where does that kind of resonate with you when you mention the term existentialism?
I feel like part of my early exploration came from like being raised Buddhist by some of my family members, having some basic understanding of what life was in certain ways, and still figuring out how to grasp the idea of what life was at an early age. Right? And down to like, the basic concept of like life is suffering. You're pretty much on your own most of your life in your journey. I mean, you'll meet people along the way, and as you meet each other, you help each other grow. But eventually, you're gonna have to move on that path on your own again. So that's something I've had to kind of explore with myself growing up. And so in relating to like documentary work and stuff, in relating to that, I feel like if you're gonna figure out what your life is about, you kind of have to like understand what history of humanity was about too, in certain ways,
Indeed,
but in relating to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so in relating to like where my idea of existentialism comes from, it's more coming from like exploration of Eastern philosophy,
Okay, and connect that if you would to, and I appreciate your sharing that. When I mentioned Albert Camus or Kierkegaard, they're Western people, but also Buddhism is so we don't always give homage to their original kind of manifestation of this of these metaphors and of these paradigms. But connected to your Jonathan Jackson document, because I see that to be where you're exploring the Jonathan and Jackson and his family of the story, their existentialism and how they reacted to how they perceived their lives, the cage that life might be kind of surrounding them in.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
So share a little bit more about your Jonathan Jackson documentary and the educational cadre, and you're working with young people, because they may not know how to spell Buddhism or know how to spell Kierkegaard or know how to spell Camus, but they may be living in an existential moment.
Yeah, and they're in connection with the documentary or with the subject of the documentary, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like, as far as like how I first got into the, given the opportunity to work on this project, again, it was more relating to like my interest in anti-police brutality work, like connecting with that as I was re-exploring. Oh, we got some people that are on now, but in connection with the documentary and stuff, just again, originally going into police brutality, I didn't realize learning about George Jackson and Jonathan Jackson and understanding like how much, for example, George had to go through for his transformation. I felt like one of the interesting things that drove my attention towards George Jackson and members of the Black Panther Party and certain figures in the Black Power movement is just how they shifted their lives, made improvement in their lives. Something that stuck in my mind was George Jackson is shifting from the criminal mentality to a revolutionary mentality.
Indeed.
And what some of his philosophy involving like changing the environment would mean changing the person. So that's something I think about when it comes down to the exploration of life and what it means to live when it comes down to making shifts in your life, like
Absolutely.
what George and Jonathan did.
And just before I ask you to kind of tease people with how they can look at your trailer, Iyabo, how you doing? Are you there? Are you unmuted? I think you're still muted. Can you hear us now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. David is on the line, and we may have a few other people kind of chip in. So I'm gonna,
Hey, Baba.
so just relax for a minute, and I wanted David kind of.
I just went right to the I was just trying to send you the link. It's a couple emails down. You'll see it, and then the Zoom link is right there on it. Yeah, it's on the I got it on my.
Go ahead, Tom. He's on the phone.
Okay, David, share with folks on how the trailer, where they can find the trailer for the Jonathan Jackson and documentary that you're working on, because I really love how it's really not just a historical thing, but you're working with young people as well.
Yeah, you can find the documentary trailer on YouTube. You just type in Jackson, not just the name, trailer, and you'll find the trailer. And that's actually my voice in the trailer too.
Okay, so yeah, so you're double dipping.
Yeah, and I guess you could say that. Yeah.
All right, and Yaba, how you doing, man? Yaba, can you hear us?
Here he goes. Here I am. Yeah, that was Ngoma calling me. I think they're trying to log on now. He was just trying to figure out how I got on. Okay, well, and the show is also about leading one another and leading ourselves. So what you just mentioned is what we're trying to kind of work our way through this labyrinth of life. So welcome and thanks for sharing. Absolutely, thanks for having me on, man.
And literally, we're talking about people's purpose and passion and product. And David Dang has just shared a little bit with us. I want to jump to you, and then as you say, we might have some other people join us. Wendy McCloy was kind enough to kind of bring everyone to my attention and really be the director, the showrunner for this show, and I really appreciate it. But Yaba, talk a little bit about your purpose and passion and your mission, and then we're going to, depending on how much time we have, also have a follow-up question for everyone about why during this time, what you've learned, what your lessons are, what your gift might be helpful to others. I got to tell you, I'll start off and just briefly by saying that just doing this show is really healing for me. I got to tell you, man, my mind is like flipping out. So it helps to anchor me at least for 45 minutes one day.
I can dig it.
Don't ask about the other days of the week. But chat a little bit about your purpose, passion, and mission, and then we'll kind of circle back in terms of how what you're doing, what you're learning, what your gifting might be helpful for people. And when we come back for that circle back, definitely in terms of any art exhibits you have going on or any performances, definitely want people to know how they can kind of commune with you now and in the future. But let's jump off with the purpose, passion, and mission.
Purpose, passion, mission. I'm a storyteller. My purpose is to continue the griot tradition that I am really starting to understand that it is my calling. I'm a poet and an actor and a painter, but I realize I use all of those things to tell stories. My passion is just that. I love doing that, I will also love paying it forward. I'm an immigrant to this country, and I remember being here about 2 years and super nervous and having a thick accent still. And in art class one day, Puerto Rican teacher, Mrs. David Sepulveda from New Haven, looked over my shoulder and said, wow, that's a pretty awesome brushstroke. You must be a painter. And I bought it. And if, 30 something years later, here I am, I'm a painter, and we're now friends, and I'm able to tell him that he's responsible for me wanting. So I feel if he could have done that for me, then I know that there's one kid out there that I could inspire the same kind of way. So my passion is really children. I've been a master teaching artist for about 26 years. And what we're doing right now when it comes to these times is I feel like everybody's talking around the kids, over the kids, near the kids. Nobody's talking to these kids who are going to leave this planet that we're really screwing up to. I teach after school at Thomas Hooker, and my students and I came up with the idea of doing a Thomas Hooker Corona Chronicles, where I'm going to have them, over the last couple of weeks, what we've been doing is coming up with questions to ask the mayor. We're trying to get in touch with him, somebody from the governor's office or state representative, an essential worker, one of their fellow students, and the superintendent of schools. And this week is when we're going to really start going through those questions and really start figuring out how to get these questions to these people so that the kids can answer, they can have questions answered for themselves, so they could put some of these adults to task, because we're messing up. And I think they should hold us to task. So that's my biggest passion, is to getting the kids to wrap their heads around it. We're adults, we can deal with it, but we're just throwing some stuff at the kids that are like huge. This has never happened. It never happened to me when I was a kid. I grew up in the Caribbean. The most I dealt with was hurricanes, which is rough. But this is the plague from medieval times. I remember reading in social studies. So
for sure, reach out to me and email me and share, if you would, some of that information. When you mentioned Thomas Hooker School in Hartford,
in New Haven, I'm sorry, and here in Bridgeport, sorry. Here
in Bridgeport.
Yes.
Yeah. So for sure, reach out to me so I can help spread that word.
I absolutely will.
We'll circle back to David, but David was also referencing his documentary that also pertains to young people. So that's a vibe. You may have a question.
Awesome. Salute to you, David. Thank you, David.
And Austin Yoyan, you're on the line. You're there, and Ngoma. Both of you kind of are double hitting.
His audio is off.
Bob.
And Ngoma, unmute yourself, please.
There you go.
There you go, man.
What's up, Baba?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, there's a few Babas on the line, man. You call me Baba in training. Harry, our station manager, is Baba in training. It's over.
What's going on? I'm trying to get Oshun Yoying, and we having technical issues here.
Yeah, I see her popping in. She's saying connect, Baba. It's saying she's connecting.
Yeah, I see all of y'all.
Yeah.
All right.
You hear me okay?
Yes, I got you fine, Baba.
Yeah, we're trying to get her in.
You have to turn off the audio behind. You can't listen to the show.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Somebody has the show on in the background.
Yeah, we getting playback, Baba. Cut the show off behind you.
You know, Oshun Yoying?
Hey, Tom, is it because him and Oshun may be too close to each other?
Yeah.
Huh?
He said we're getting feedback because we're too close to each other.
Yeah, you guys probably got a mic up. You got a mic up. Put some earphones in.
Yeah. She's moving.
That's a little better.
There you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
That is much better.
That works?
Yes.
Get some headphones. Got headphones?
They're in the back.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Well, Ngoma, share with us a little bit. You are certainly well known throughout the globe, but believe it or not, there's still some people, some younger listeners on my on the show that haven't had the pleasure of hearing you or seeing you. I know you don't. Can you hear me? Believe it or not, there's still some people, some younger listeners on my on the show that haven't had the pleasure of hearing you or seeing you. So in terms of this is difficult to ask this question because you perform for so long and so often, but your purpose, passion, and mission, if you could give us a Reader's Digest version and why that's so important, why that is so important right now, given these times. And you might perceive these times as being normative and more intense for others, but then the intense for us for the last 4,000 years. So I'm not going to restrain you in terms of how you define this time, but you might perceive these times as being normative and more intense for others, but then the intense for us for the last 4,000 years. So I'm not going to
somebody else talking too. I don't know besides me.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
We can't have the show on in the background. Intense for us for the last 4,000 years.
Somebody else talking too. I don't know besides me.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
We can't have the show on in the background.
There you go. I think you got it now. Okay, so I'm a performance poet.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
We can't have the show on in the background.
Somebody has the show on. There you go. I think you got it now. Okay, so I'm a performance poet.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
We can't have the show on in the background.
Somebody has the show on. There you go. I think you got it now. Okay, so I'm a performance poet.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
Okay, everything is delayed for some
reason. We can't have
reason.
the show on in the background.
Somebody has the show on. There you go. I think you got it now. Okay, so I'm a performance poet.
Somebody has the show on in the background.
I'm a multi-instrumental.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. I just muted him and all this, the problem went away.
Right.
So it's him who has the show on.
So it might be through their phone they're playing it?
I'm not sure, but you got to move on. We can't do the show.
I understood. Let's go back to Iabo. Let's have Iabo. Can we unmute Iabo?
That's me. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, let's have you and David talk about the reason that you're interested in youth and reaching them, because as you say, everyone on this show has lived it. We're not in the emergency department and we're not in the hospice at the moment, so we're blessed in so many ways. But as you say, the young people are being bombarded with really these unknown. Is that you're better than Goebel?
I guess I am. I hear three or four voices. It sounds like it's recording.
Bombarded with really.
Can you hear me now?
See, it still is. You have. There's some device in your area that still is on.
I guess I am. I hear three or four voices. It sounds like it's recording.
Baba, you on Oshun might have to come on the same. You might have to get on the same computer.
Some device in your area that still is on.
She wanted to get her earphone. I guess I am.
All right. So let's see if they can work out. David, I apologize, but David.
Yeah, David, it's all good.
And David and can I apologize for the technical issues? Like, this is part of the crisis, right?
Well, I'm gonna tell you. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Tom, can you hear me?
In the back to get some earphones. She'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, it's all good.
And David and can I apologize for the.
Hey, everybody mute again.
Let's try to go with David and Iabo for a few seconds about the importance of reaching the youth, and in terms of the artistry and investment of your time, and the compassion and passion that you're showing to them. David, David, did you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. David, do you want to go first about why the importance of your documentary is important for young people to be involved with it? And there was a particular housing project as well out there on the West Coast that were participating in this initiative.
The importance of the documentary and the connection with the youth is, to me, from my experience, like over the years in activism and organizing, is doing my best to learn what I can from leaders like George and Jonathan Jackson. One of the things that drew me in also with learning about them is to see how they had to integrate their revolutionary life with their family life. I feel like that's something that I myself have had to figure out how to struggle with since my exploration of radical politics in my mid-20s, along with a lot of my other Viet comrades. And that's where a good portion of my work is mainly with like Vietnamese people in their early 20s, mid 20s. I'm like 35 now. My work with people in my community is more with currently more focused on the men in my community, different ages, early 20s, mid 40s. Especially around this pandemic, I feel like something that we all have to be mindful right now is how we're seeing a shift, either like a for people priority or like a for profit priority. We've seen that individualistic mindset, and we're seeing like a collective mindset shift with society right now. And so in relation to the doc, I feel like the doc has a lot for us to learn, a lot of missing pieces that I feel like we're still trying to uncover as far as our history of struggle and stuff globally, and particularly around this pandemic right now. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, for sure. And Yabo, I guess before I come to you, David, just share a little bit more about, particularly under these times, why this intensification of the quarantine and just perception of what existence means on the planet, and us being able to really be complicit in a murder in terms of sharing. We may be infected or asymptomatic, but still can infect somebody else. So this is a global war where the enemy in some ways is us, but kind of share how you see these times and how.
Is that for me or David?
Well, jump in, Elbow. Jump in.
For me, the big, I have a history degree, and the biggest thing is getting to put in context for the kids. And so I talked to them about the Spanish flu 100 years ago, and the Roaring 20s 100 years ago, and the fact that it always takes a little while for people to realize that they have to put a lot of the ideas from the past century down, and that's why the Roaring 20s. One of the reasons Roaring 20s was called the Roaring 20s, because it was a time for people to realize it was time to step into a new century. And I'm also telling them it's really wonderful time to be a young person, because a lot of the people that were the architects of what the 20th century, the first 50 years of the 20th century was like, were young people, and were just, really ideas from Sigmund Freud to Jelly Roll Johnson to Marcus Garvey to Ida B. Wells. These were all people that were around 100 years ago. And the things that they did, the ideas that they put down were what the first 50 years of the 20th century were based on. So I try to empower them to really be ready for what's coming, and the fact that it's time they're going to be the ones that help us, the old people, to vomit up some of those old ideas and come into the 21st century with them. So I push that. I push them in being empowered, which is why Johnson Jackson and to me and George makes so much sense, because that's what it was about. It was about empowering the children to realize that they have the power to challenge adults on what you are doing, why you're doing what you're doing,
I hear your voice. Indeed. And I believe, David and Yabo, correct me, but I think Jonathan was 17.
Yes, he was. He was a kid. He was a kid.
Not like 18, but an 11th grader in some ways. An 11th grader.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harry, let's see if we can bring back Ngoma and see if they've had any success on their end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Bob. Perfect.
So, I missed half of the conversation because I was like trying to get through the technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
You were asking me what I do, or I think that's where we started out.
Yes.
I'm a performance poet. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I use poetry and music to raise social, political, and spiritual consciousness. And it's important because I try to give people information so that they can make decisions. Because if you don't have the correct information and you don't have the truth, then you can't actually decide how you should act about it. So people do a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be doing, but they don't know that they shouldn't be doing it because they don't have any information. So I've been doing this now for about 50 years. So I play about anywhere between 12 and 16 instruments. People ask me how many instruments I play. I don't know. I play some instruments that I don't actually own, and I haven't played them in a while. So when I'm listening to them, I forget a lot of times, you know. But right now I'm playing about 12 different instruments. I think what I'm doing is important because one thing, not only do I try to reach the youth, but I try to reach people our age also, because if you check out what's going on, since people don't read and people don't know history, they don't know what's going on. You don't know how to interpret what's going on. So I try to give you some information so you can interpret what's going on here. And then you can move from there. So that's kind of like the quick answer.
And Goldman, help me to drill down a little bit about this point in time in 2020 on Monday. What's special or unique, or even some people say that in crisis there's always an opportunity. What's resonating with you, given your several decade experience in terms of communing with people? What's really resonating with you at this particular moment in time, or whether it's the same thing that's been resonating with you from birth?
Well, one thing that's unique about this particular time is that we have the opportunity to reach more people. We are in a place where people can get information. If you're looking for the information, you can find information
quickly.
The other thing is, just like we're on Zoom now, people from all over the world could be checking this out. Because people in other parts of the world don't understand what's going on here, and people here don't understand what's going on in other parts of the world. So like if you go to other parts of the world, especially into so-called underdeveloped countries, you'll find people say, well, I want to come to live in America. So when you tell me that, I ask you, what skills do you have? What do you do? What you gonna do when you get here? Be a taxi driver? You know, what skills do you have that you think that you can use here? Because it's very different. A lot of people think that this is the land of milk and honey. And once you get here, it's real groovy. Everybody can just, you get a job doing something. But if you don't have a skill, or you don't know somebody, you're not gonna work. So the question I asked them, the first thing I asked them is, okay, that's good. You can come to America, but what you gonna do when you get here, brother? How you gonna eat? You got family, you got somebody that's gonna take care of you, you got somewhere you gonna stay. What you gonna do, sleep on a park bench till you get a job driving a taxi? What are you gonna do? But one of the things that we have that we can do now, since we're on the internet talking to each other, you can talk to people all over the world and people can get a better idea of what it is that we're talking about. The average African, for example, young person, they don't know anything about the Middle Passage or the Atlantic slave trade. They don't know about that. They don't know the difficulties that we have gone through here in this country or in the world, period. So they think it's all groovy. So when I was in Nigeria, Occupy Wall Street was going on. And I was showing people pictures and videos from Occupy Wall Street. And they said, why these white people protesting? And I said, yeah, because, you think everybody in America is rich, but we're not. That's just a perception that you have.
And Harry,
we might have two more pennies to rub together than you do, but it doesn't make us rich. It just makes us 2 pennies richer. Or 2 pennies poorer.
And Harry, let's unmute Osonya.
Yes, I'm here.
Good, great, and thanks for joining us. And again, Dee, welcome. Again, I want to thank Wendy McLeod for bringing us together. And we had some of the technical hiccups, but you guys got to commit, and ladies, gentlemen, and men, let's kind of do this again if we can.
Absolutely.
Great, absolutely.
But Osonya, share with us a little bit about what your purpose and passion and mission is. And we're trying to just let people know that all of us on this line are gifted, and to be human is a gift. But I'm really so impressed with everyone is how they're sharing their gifts and really kind of helping to bolster and nurture folks for the future so we can survive so we can not only survive, but also to thrive?
Well, I'm fortunate. I consider myself blessed. I have a lot of gifts, but the main one and the one that I use all the time, especially as an Oshun priestess, is I'm a diviner. I read people. I help them make decisions in their life by informing them of the energies around, the people around, what's coming. If there are any messages from their ancestors, because in traditional African spiritual culture, the view of the cosmogony, or how we view the cosmos, is God is first, of course. And then after God comes the ancestors, because we inherit everything else we have. Spiritual talents, genetics, DNA, even though we may not think about it in those terms, we inherit everything else we have from the ancestors. So then the ancestors, and even to the ancestors, we inherit our spiritual tradition and our protective spirits and traditions like that. So it's important for us to know what's going on with the ancestors. People come to me all the time and say, well, how do I get into this? I'm like, there's really nothing for you to get into.
Stop.
You know, God comes first, and then we develop a relationship with our ancestors, because who's going to love you more than your ancestors?
Mm.
Who's going to want to guide you better? And another one of our beliefs is that it is our ancestors who return to us as our children. So you definitely want to talk to them. And we also say in Yoruba, we say Egungun, which is ancestor, literally means bone, but Egungun tien belese olodamari. It means they sit at the foot of God, meaning they intercede for us with God. So we wanted to keep and develop that relationship with our ancestors, so it helps our connection to God. And that's the other thing too. God is considered, of course, the ultimate king. And most of the time, of course, you can speak directly to a king, but most of the time we speak to an intermediary. And a good deal of the time, us in traditional African spirituality, we speak to God through our ancestors. Of course, we can speak directly to God, but we go through our ancestors a lot of times, because we believe that our ancestors will really plead our case, so to speak.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. Dee, welcome. Dee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me
Have
okay?
Have you heard some of the conversation?
I have. Thank you for having me.
Great. And thanks for joining us. We're a little abbreviated in terms of our process today. We've had some technical problems, but the general question is the purpose and passion and mission. And just so glad that you could join us on the call and to kind of share some of your gifts and what people need. I mean, you are living and breathing, gifting and sharing and nurturing and loving. So kind of how that has driven you and what people can kind of take away from your personal experience from a communion standpoint.
Thank you, Tom. You actually summed up some of the things that I consider my gift or my purpose, is really nurturing people and connecting them with their divine self. Like the sister shared, a lot of people think of themselves separate from spirituality, or separate from God, or separate from, whatever is there in the metaphysical or in the spiritual world, when it's actually all here. It's all connected. And so for me, I very much like the sister, I say I read your vibes, I feel your vibes, I connect you with your vibes. And so for me, my purpose is really to empower people, to really center them. So I do a lot of like chakra alignments, things like that. And the things that I'm passionate about is to see people really move in their purpose, because a lot of people, they often go through life, questioning is a good thing, but a lot of people question and they go to, let's just say, they think that the answer has to come through a third party or this other person before they come to their own realization. And I just help to activate the healing within them so that they know that the answer is there, their ancestors are there, that the creator is there. And so I'm passionate about healing traumas as well. I work with survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. And so Apart from that, I do, one of the things, especially during this time with COVID, is it's forced a lot of people indoors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also escalated situations within the home, or it's also forced you to go internal and you realize that you haven't healed trauma. So during this time, I've had a lot of people reach out to me to really help them work through some of the process or the things that are coming up, which is one of the things that I love about this journey. Is in some traditional, I would say, Western religion, is like you have to do X, Y, you never really heal yourself, right? And when you really do healing work is connecting to your spirituality and facing those shadow sides. And so I'm very passionate about getting to the bottom of what is really ailing people or causing the disease within people, because a lot of times a disease is just what shows up, but it's what's inside, right? It's below that. It's what's below the surface. So that's what I'm passionate about, is getting below the surface of what you present, and then you working through your healing and going forward. So I use different modalities. I connect with my ancestors. I use sound as a method as well, to activate the body, connect the soul. And so I use different modalities depending on the person, client, situation that I'm dealing with. But more than anything, I am really passionate about empowering people to connect with themselves.
And Divine, if I could just ask one, and thanks for sharing that. If I could just ask one follow-up question, what is, and you might not be able to answer this in the 5 minutes we have, and for everybody, we'll have one more round of kind of last words. But Divine, what are some of the things you referenced below the surface? What are some of those things below the surface? What are you insinuating there?
So, for instance, someone might be at work and be discontented and unhappy at work, and then you really, after you talk to them, you really realize it's not about the job. They're having issues at their home with their husband, and then the issue with the husband, you find out below, is this feeling of lack of self-worth. You might feel that you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of success, or you find that there's a inner mom wound or a father wound. Like as you go below, and that's some of the shadow work where you go beyond the surface. You find what really is triggering the person, and often you find childhood wounds, right? That they are often reaching outside of themselves to heal. Like, you know how people will say, "Oh, you married someone like your mom, or you married someone like your dad." Behind that, there's healthy relationship, but the unhealthy is sometimes you end up pulling in or marrying in the exact thing that hurts you. And a lot of things outside of yourself, when you look in the mirror, you really realize that it's because I feel like I am unworthy, or what I'm worthy of is that slap, that hit. That's how I define love, or being feeling neglected, right, or invisible. All my life has caused me to act out and do certain things to seek attention. So you find those things below the surface when you start to really work with people. And a lot of it really goes back to childhood. And there's really, outside of going to therapy and so forth, and a lot of people in culture, they don't necessarily seek therapy. They look for another escape. And so in some of the spiritual community, when we work with what we talk about, facing your shadow self, a lot of it is about working on childhood trauma or childhood issues, or things that you need to heal within yourself so that you can vibrate out in a different way. So that you can attract in really what you're worthy of. Because when you really center and feel your worth and really love yourself, you then create healthy boundaries, right? That allow you to then interact with people differently. You're not getting in arguments every second. You're not so easily triggered and popping off, or you're not attracting that narcissist, because now you know and recognize the narcissist behavior. You say, oh, no, I'm not here to fix you. You're not fixable. You act like you are, but you're really not. And you're really pulling off of my energy, right? But now I've learned my self-worth, so I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who loves themselves too, right? And operates in a certain way. So when you heal yourself, you just recognize places, people, and things very differently from a healed place.
Boy, Divine, thank you so much. I want to just go around with David and Iyabo and Ngoma and Osonyoya and Dee as well for your last words. Try to keep it to a minute or so. When we hear the music, that means Harry is pulling the hook on us, okay. And so he may pull it immediately. And in terms of your last words, it could be some adventure involved with. I know David has a documentary, some performance thing, how people can contact you to kind of mutually benefit from your gifts. So don't be shy if you want to put in a little promo. But David, we'll go first with you. David.
Yeah, along with the Jackson Not Just a Name documentary that is going through different film festivals right now through the film festival circuit, there will be a trailer of this documentary that I've been working on with the same director, Harold Welton, who's actually a former Panther and also a co-founder of the Jonathan Jackson Educational College, but where he got another documentary called The Liberation of Fremont High. And it's about the Black Student Union-led rebellion in 68 and 69. So it's just another time travel adventure for the youth to explore in the understanding the history of revolutionary politics and whatnot.
Perfect. And so the link is on YouTube?
For the Jonathan Jackson Not Just a Name documentary trailer. The Fremont High trailer will be out in the next month there.
Please email me so I can help share that. Iyabo?
Peace, everybody. Thank you guys for having me. IyabaArts.com, IYABARTS. I'm sitting at home, but it's also a gallery here in Bridgeport, 9104. Hopefully when we can do some physical contact, you guys can come visit and check out some of the art. But keep in touch with us through the website and all the different social media places, Iyaba Igbo Mandingo, and we're going to be doing a lot of virtual stuff.
And just lastly, Iyabo, you're working with galvanizing the youth to kind of address some of their concerns and legitimate issues with your Bridgeport mayor.
Yes, and any other adults that we could talk to. We want some answers from these adults.
And some answers
on what the hell y'all doing with this planet.
Excellent. And Ngoma? Take your mute off, Abba. Harry, take Ngoma's mute off, please. Harry, okay, there you go.
I'm working on a series of poems called the Corona Chronicles. I can't say when it's going to be finished. It's a work in progress. Okay. You can hit me up on Facebook, Ngoma Hill, Ngoma, last name Hill, or either on Instagram at Ngoma_Hill. I've got CDs on CD Baby, iTunes, Amazon. Just look up Ngoma Hill and probably find me through there. Or you can write me at ngomasword@gmail, NGOMAZWORD@gmail, and I'll holler back at you, holler black at you.
And Sonia, just before I come to you, Ngoma, with the quarantine, a lot of performers not being able to perform, how's that psychically impacting you at all?
Yeah, it's quite a problem because, you want to see the response of people as you perform. So it's kind of, you can do it on virtually, but it's just not quite the same thing. It's still.
Sonia, we're getting hooked. So I want to hear a few words. Harry, unmute Sonia Yoyam.
Oh, Sonia Yin.
Sonia, I'm sorry. Next time I'll get it.
It's okay. No worries. I do a lot of different things. One of the things I love to do is I teach poetry, performance poetry to high school students. And I teach them from what I call the Grio and the Jelly school of thought. You have to write about something, social commentary or something like that. But back to my spiritual work. I don't know whether that's what the sister's name was who was speaking earlier. I just want you to know, I love you. I just love you, period. Just love you. Because those are all the same things that I work on, and we work on them in similar ways. And one of the things that I always try to get across to people, no matter what spiritual tradition you practice, they all say that we are created in the spiritual image and likeness of God, which gives us a divine standard to reach for and live up to, not use our being human as an excuse not to achieve or to live a substandard life. We are imbued with whatever it was that Almighty God gave us at birth, and it's our job to express that to the fullest and do our destiny to the fullest.
Harry's going to give us a hook in 30 seconds. Divine?
Thank you, Tom, for having me. Greetings, sister. I appreciate you and everyone else for sharing the word. You can find me at Divine Rising on Facebook or IG, or also infinitelifeworks.com. I do sound healing, vibrational healing, shamanic healing. But all I will say is go within and don't be afraid during this time. Fear blocks you from growth. Keep connecting, listen, and accept and embrace the silence.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. We must do this again. Harry,
Peace.
Peace. Ashe.
Peace.
Cheers.
Understand what black is. The source from which all things come. The security blanket for the stars. Understand what black is. It's not a color. It's the basis of all colors. It is not a complexion. It is a reflection of all complexions